We organize information also to help us improve our memory, and this is important for our long-term memory. Remember how we were saying before about, like the short-term memory can only store a small amount of information? Well, you can use hierarchies to help process this information, store it into your long-term memory. And then once you have this information, you can then retrieve, you can have this hierarchy that you already have that can help you connect one concept to another. Okay? So you have hierarchies and you also have schemas. We'll talk about each of these. Start with a hierarchy. You take a whole bunch of complex information and you can break it down start with broad concepts, then further subdivide it into categories, and then further into subcategories. If anybody here wants to study biology, they are categorizing all forms of life, and a big part of what they do is kind of like identifying, where a particular living thing belongs in this category, and so they're understanding life in terms of those categories, and the understanding that certain kinds of organisms have some characteristics, invertebrates versus vertebrates. The invertebrates do not have a spinal column, but the vertebrates do, among other things. So in other words, you can kind of see differences in categories and leading you to get a better understanding of different types of living things. As an example here in this slide, you can look at, in other words, you can, for example, come up, there are thousands of different types of rocks, quartz, mica, whatnot, thousands of different kinds of rocks. Well, if we try to remember all of those without any connection from one rock to another, it would be very difficult. But you can create a hierarchy here. You can start with the concept of minerals that can be further subdivided into metals and stones. You have the rare metals, the common metals, and the alloys. The alloys are the combinations of different kinds of metals. Alloy like steel. Stones, you can divide them up into precious stones like jewels like diamonds, or into masonry like just like limestone or something like that does not have that precious value. So in other words, this is just one example. As another example, you read a textbook, right? You read a textbook in psychology. Well, the textbook is divided into a hierarchy as well. It's divided into chapters, and those chapters are meaningful units that the book is divided by. Furthermore, each of these chapters is divided into categories. Different topics within the chapter are divided and then further subdivided. Okay? And this allows us to understand the information in the textbook and being able to put the information into categories that make sense to us. Think about how a textbook would be to read a textbook if the textbook did not have any chapters. In other words, it's the same information, same textbook, except no chapters, no subheadings on the chapters. It's just words from beginning to end. It would be very, very difficult to understand the information if it is presented that way. Another very important way in which we process information, in which we store information in our long-term memory, is through schemas. Schemas are like more complex categories that we can devise. Okay? Each category kind of has like almost like a story behind it, like a really detailed information about it. Okay? And we fit incoming information into our existing schemas. They provide us with these ready-made categories. If I say the word restaurant, for example, all sorts of images can come into your mind when I say the word restaurant. Many different stories that you can make regarding restaurants. The restaurants, you can see, visualizing a restaurant, you can think about the hostess that takes your name down. You could think about the tables that are all around. Some of them are tables, some of them are booths. You could see the various kinds of silverware. You see the forks, knives, spoons there, the glasses. You see all of the different decor in a restaurant, the different kinds of light, the kind of lighting you would expect, kind of a dim lighting you see. You see the kitchen in the back. You see the doors that swing open, right? That the waiters and waitresses come through all the time. You see the people who come and take away your dirty plates, right? And you see all of these different things in a restaurant. All of these different things kind of make sense. You would not expect to see an elephant standing in the middle of a restaurant. That doesn't fit in with the schema, does it? But the schema tells you all of the things that you would expect to see at a restaurant. So your restaurant schema is very detailed, very elaborate, and it's based on everything that you've learned as a, in your experiences going to restaurants. Okay? And if you have a friend who says, come on, let's go out to eat and go to a restaurant. Well, automatically, you know what to expect. Automatically, you are picturing the things that are going to be happening. You're taking this information. We're going to a restaurant tonight, and you kind of know exactly pretty much what is going to happen. So, schemas help us influence in terms of how we interpret and remember information. They help us, in other words, we perceive what we expect to perceive. Before you even walk into a door of a restaurant, you know what to expect. You expect to see the hostess in the front who takes your name down. You expect to see a server when you when you see a server when you go to your table to ask you what you want to order. All these different things you expect to perceive, and it's a matter of just being prepared. You're fully prepared for what you're going to see when you open the door. Contrast it to a little child who had never been to a restaurant before. Opened up the door, enters the restaurant. It's an entirely new experience. The child is in wonder about, oh wow, all these interesting, exciting things happening at the restaurant, because it's a brand new experience for that child. For you, no. You know what to expect before you even walk in the door. And that's how we understand the world around us. We kind of know what to expect. We know what to expect in a college classroom. We know what to expect in a library. We know what to expect at a movie theater. We know what to expect in terms of how we perceive these particular types of things that we come across. These different kinds of categories. So I think that's an important thing to consider. So a restaurant is a building where they prepare food, right, and serve it. But that building where they prepare food and serve it, which is essentially what a restaurant is, well, you know what? It fits into you have a mental category for it, a schema for a restaurant that restaurant, that building fits into. That all restaurants kind of fit into that schema somehow. And so the schemas are very important for us in understanding the world around us. When we see events that violate our schema, like an elephant that stands in the middle of a restaurant, would certainly violate the schema. Boy, we would remember that. We would remember that, and those things would stand out to us. But we nevertheless also will sometimes not view reality correctly. We are so fixated on our schema that we ignore things when they don't quite match the schema. We assume that it does, and therefore we remember only what we expect to remember. So just like we perceive what we expect to perceive, we remember only what is in our schema, maybe not what actually happened. A script is a specific type of schema. A script is a sequence of events. It's an event schema. So in other words, it's not just the building of the restaurant that prepares. It's not just a category describing buildings that have where they serve and where they prepare and serve food. It is more than just that. A script is the sequence of events. So if you think about the sequence of going to a restaurant, you would enter the restaurant. Then the hostess would ask you how many are in your party. You tell the hostess how many are in your party. Then they might give you a little beeper or something that'll tell you when your table is ready. Then you go sit at your table when your name is called or the thing beeps. Then the server comes and brings you some water and asks if you'd like an appetizer or something like that. So in other words, you know the sequence of events. It's a script. This happens, then this happens, then this happens. But we have these scripts stored in our memory as well. We have a script for all different kinds, different categories of events. We have scripts for the first date. We have scripts for a marriage ceremony. So we have scripts for all different kinds of events. And we can kind of see this happens first, then this happens. And again, it helps us understand the world around us. Another way in which our memory is organized is through what we can call a connectionist network. And it's kind of like similar to what we were talking about before with the cue leading to a target. Different cues leading to the same target. When you have multiple connections, because what it is, between something, between a trigger and what you're trying to remember, then you're going to have a much better likelihood of remembering the concept, remembering it. So it's not like we have a memory of an armadillo stored somewhere in this particular part of my brain. We have a connection of network, multiple ways of thinking about armadillos, what they, the images of what they look like, memories from seeing it at the zoo, memories of seeing it in the backyard, all these different things, connecting all of it together, and just linking to one of those connections can lead me to the output of kind of remembering how to spell armadillo, let's say. Parallel distributed processing is another way of kind of looking at this here. Is that the memory of the parallel distributed processing model essentially is saying that this web of memories that we have, the connection of concepts, is kind of connected to, similar to how our neurons are connected in our brain. If looking at a neural network, you see how neurons are connected with each other in multiple connections, multiple pathways. So physiologically, you see a network. Likewise, conceptually, you see a network. If you think about the apple as an image of an apple, how is an apple connected conceptually? Maybe we're connected to apple pie or the sweetness of an apple, the apple juice, apple tree. It's red, it's round. All of these different things are different ways in which the concept of apple is connected conceptually, and this is again helps us understand how our memory works. Is that it's like the things that we're remembering is more or less all connected together in different ways, conceptually as well as physiologically.